Daniel was head over heels in love with her. He spoke of her kindness, her humility, and her heart of gold. Every time he described her, his eyes would light up as if he'd found his soulmate. But Richard wasn't so sure. He had met many people who wore a mask of kindness while secretly having their eyes set on wealth. So, as the wedding date drew closer, Richard decided to do something that would reveal Emily's true nature, for better or for worse. He would disguise himself as a poor, old gatekeeper at the entrance of his own estate to see how Emily would treat him when she didn't know who he really was. On the morning of the test, Richard put on old, tattered clothes. He rubbed dirt on his face, wore a cap low over his eyes, and even added a fake limp. In the mirror, he no longer looked like the powerful billionaire everyone recognized. He looked like a weary old man who had worked all his life. Daniel had told Emily to come to the estate that day to meet his father for lunch. She had no idea Richard would be at the gate in disguise. Richard took his position at the entrance, leaning on a walking stick. The tall iron gates were closed, and when Emily's car arrived, she stepped out wearing a simple but elegant dress, holding a small gift bag in her hands. "Excuse me, sir," she said politely, walking toward him. "I'm here to see Mr. Richard Coleman. Could you please open the gate?" Richard squinted at her. "And who might you be?" he asked in a gruff voice. "I'm Emily," she replied with a warm smile. "Daniel's fiancée. He asked me to come for lunch." Richard shook his head slowly. "I don't just let anyone in. People say there's someone important all the time. How do I know you're telling the truth?" Most people in Emily's place might have shown irritation or arrogance, but instead, she stepped closer, still smiling. "I understand you're just doing your job," she said gently. "If you need to call Daniel to confirm, please do. I don't want to cause any trouble for you." Richard was testing her patience, so he decided to push further. "The thing is, I don't have a phone. And Mr. Coleman doesn't like to be disturbed. You might have to wait here until I'm sure you're welcome." Emily's smile didn't fade. Instead, she nodded and looked around. "That's okay. Is it all right if I wait here with you? You must be standing a long time. Would you like some water? I have a bottle in my car." Richard felt a strange tug in his chest. He hadn't expected such kindness. But the test wasn't over. No, he said, pretending to be stubborn. "Just, tell me, why are you marrying Daniel? He's rich, you know. People like you." He let his voice trail off, as if suspicious. Emily's eyebrows lifted slightly at his words, but she didn't seem offended. "I'm marrying Daniel because I love him," she said firmly. "It's not about the money. I'd marry him even if he had nothing. He's the kindest, most genuine man I've ever met." Her voice was steady, sincere. Richard wanted to believe her, but he had been fooled before. "Words are easy to say," he muttered. "How do I know you're not just pretending?" Emily tilted her head, studying him. "Sir, I don't know you, and you don't know me, but one thing I can promise is that love can't be faked for long. If I was after his money, I wouldn't be here trying to impress his father. I'd be somewhere spending it. But I want to be part of his life, and that means being part of his family too." Richard felt his throat tighten, but he stayed in character. "Well, I've been standing here in the cold all morning. My back hurts, and I haven't eaten yet. No one cares about old men like me." Without hesitation, Emily reached into her bag and pulled out a small sandwich wrapped in paper. "I was going to give this to Daniel's father as a gesture, but I think you need it more right now. Please, have it." Richard stared at her, speechless for a moment. She was offering something meant for his real self. To the man she thought was just a gatekeeper. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Of course," Emily said softly. "No one should go hungry while others have food. My mother taught me that." Richard took the sandwich with trembling hands. "You're a good young lady," he murmured. "Not many like you around anymore." Before he could say more, Daniel arrived, jogging toward them. "Emily. I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. He turned to Richard, still in disguise, and said, "Thanks for letting her in, old friend." Then he led Emily toward the house. As they walked away, Emily glanced back and waved at the gatekeeper. Richard raised a hand in return, his heart pounding. Inside the mansion, Richard slipped away to remove his disguise. He returned dressed in his usual sharp suit, his hair perfectly combed. When he entered the dining room, Emily's eyes widened in shock. "Mr. Coleman," she gasped. You're the gatekeeper from outside." Richard smiled faintly. "Yes, Emily. That was me. I wanted to see for myself what kind of person my son was marrying. And you passed the test." His voice trembled slightly. "The way you treated me when you thought I was just a poor old man, it touched me deeply." Emily looked overwhelmed. "Sir, I didn't know." "That's the point," Richard interrupted gently. "You didn't know, and yet you were kind. You didn't try to bribe me or get impatient. You offered me your food. I've met countless people who pretend to be good when wealth is involved, but you showed me real humanity." Daniel took Emily's hand and smiled proudly. "I told you she was the one." Richard's eyes glistened with tears as he stepped forward and embraced her. "Welcome to the family, Emily. I can see now that you love my son for who he is, not for what he has." The rest of the lunch was filled with laughter, heartfelt conversation, and a newfound bond. Richard told her stories of Daniel's childhood, Emily shared her own humble beginnings, and by the end of the afternoon, it felt as if they had known each other for years. But Richard's mind kept returning to that moment at the gate, the moment Emily had offered him her sandwich without hesitation. It reminded him of his own late wife, who had once given her only coat to a freezing stranger in the middle of winter. He realized that in Emily, he saw the same selflessness and compassion. Weeks later, on the day of the wedding, Richard stood proudly beside Daniel as Emily walked down the aisle. He knew he had made the right choice in trusting her. And as he watched them exchange vows, he felt an overwhelming sense of peace. In the end, Richard's tears weren't of suspicion or doubt anymore. They were tears of gratitude that his son had found someone who truly loved him, and gratitude that he had witnessed that love in its purest form. Sometimes, the richest people are not the ones with the most money, but the ones who have the biggest hearts. And on that day, Richard knew that his family had just become the richest of all.